Today is Thursday, March 15th, and this is Celtics Beat on CLNS Media, the leading online provider of audio-video coverage of the Boston Celtics. Episode 254 featuring Sporting News NBA writer Sean Deveney is powered by Casper. Go to casper.com/Celtics and use the code Celtics for $50 towards select mattresses. That's $50 towards select mattresses by visiting casper.com/Celtics and using the code Celtics at checkout. All right, everyone, what's going on? Adam Kaufman here with you for another edition of Celtics Beat. Now, of course, once again, pay attention. Just like I said last week, this is a Thursday release. A Thursday release. Historically, the show comes out on Sundays. Well, we're mixing it up here for the duration of the regular season and into the playoffs because, again, we want to be as up-to-date as humanly possible with this team and all that is going on, hitting on all the major storylines. So, our schedule is going to be a little unpredictable, for lack of a better word, which again puts us here on a Thursday. So how do you pay attention? How do you not miss a show? How do you avoid missing shows? Because clearly that is important to me and it should be to you as well. If you're bothering to listen to this right now, well, the answer is subscribe. Subscribe on iTunes, on Stitcher, follow me on Twitter, set up those notifications, whatever it is, however you go about getting your normal Celtics Beat news or wanting to get your Celtics Beat news, I would encourage you to go about it and take it to the next level. Subscribe on iTunes. If you want more shows, if you want longer shows, if you want more interviews, whatever it may be, leave ratings. We always appreciate 5 stars, but be honest. Put how you really feel, and we'll strive toward a 5 if it's not. Leave ratings, leave comments, tell us how much you like the show, don't like the show, whatever it may be. Just let us know that you're out there. That's what we care about more than anything else. Subscribe for the show on iTunes, leave ratings, leave comments, hit me up on Twitter if you want, at Adam M. Kaufman. All right, enough of the sell and the spiel and all that. Let's talk about the show. Now, part of the reason this is coming out today as opposed to this coming weekend is we are just right in the thick of all of this injury information with this team. Last night, look at last night, for example. A hard-fought, determined, not soul-crushing, but disappointing loss at the hands of the Wizards at the Garden. A team that should have dominated the Celtics, even without John Wall. A game in which the C's really had no business being in, let alone scoring 37 points in the first quarter and leading by 20 at one point or having multiple opportunities to win this game at the end of regulation if Marcus Morris doesn't have a brain fart and actually decides to guard Jody Meeks and not leaving him open for a three-pointer to tie the game with 2.5 seconds left. Or at the end of overtime if Jayson Tatum hits a free throw. Or at the end of double overtime if Jayson Tatum doesn't take an ISO 3 at the buzzer when you're down by 1 point. There were so many chances to win this game. And quite frankly, I mean, I guess I made waves on Twitter about this last night. People seem to take offense for whatever reason. I said, I don't care who is on your team. I don't care what your roster looks like. If you go up by 20 points, you should win that game. Even if everybody's playing over their heads, you should win that game. Withstand, sustain. A 20-point lead in the first half, still up at halftime by 7 points or whatever it was, and then just falling apart there as the game moves along slowly to the point where just you let Bradley Beal do whatever you want. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on this game because this is not a show that's going to react to every single game. It's a big picture show with big picture topics, which is why when Sean Deveney from Sporting News joins me in a little bit, we are going to hit on a ton as it relates to the injuries on this team and as it relates to Ray Allen's new book and all of the drama existing even still 10 years later with that 2008 championship team. And of course, the group stayed together a few years after that as well. Sean has written extensively about Ray's new book, hasn't hit newsstands yet, but had a lot of fascinating information in there. But again, just regarding with where this team is at right now, as we talk, in that game again last night, you have Terry Rozier go off. 21 points, 17 straight games with 10-plus points, continues to play out of his mind for this club, and I continue to wonder about his future. But really, we're at least a year away from, in all likelihood, barring a trade, having a big conversation about that. He's going to be here, and he's going to play a pivotal role. Al Horford, out with an illness, and again, he's out. Kyrie Irving's out. Jaylen Brown's out. Marcus Smart's out. Daniel Tice is out. Gordon Hayward, if you want to put him in that conversation, he is out. Horford should play tomorrow, Friday, in Orlando. Kyrie Irving, unlikely to play in that one, but could play the second leg of that road trip. He's on the road with the team, and the MRI on the knee came back clean. That's great news. Jaylen Brown remains in concussion protocol, so so he's not close anyway, maybe next week. Marcus Smart, that's just a giant mystery. He may return in the short term. He may not return at all. He may need surgery and anything in between. Of course, Daniel Tice surgery today, so we know that he is done for the year. But this team, in its final, 14 games, I think, left in the regular season. It's winding down firmly in that second spot right now, well out of first, 4.5 behind the Raptors, comfortably in that second spot ahead of the Pacers and the Cavs. C's just have to, and I keep saying this, withstand, prioritize rest and rehab and getting everyone as healthy as humanly possible for about a month from now. And I spent a lot of time talking about that on last week's show. But where are they at right now with the serious lack of bodies and basically putting the main Red Claws on the court last night? Well, Terry Rozier knows that this is really next man up at the highest level.
We got a lot of guys that can play, man, so and this is the NBA. This is a lot of opportunity for a lot of guys, and you just got to make the best of it. That's what we're looking to do.
If you want to get your fill of Celtic sound, make sure you subscribe also to the CLNS YouTube page. So even beyond subscribing to iTunes, where you'll get to hear Celtics Beat and all of the great things that we bring you with this show, if you want just raw Celtics post-game sound, pre-game sound, all of it, CLNS, the YouTube page, that's the place to go for that. But Rozier knows he's going to be playing a larger role for this team than he would have ever banked on. He's going to be starting with Irving out, even when Irving does come back. If Smart doesn't come back, he's going to be playing those 30 minutes a game that he wasn't before that Smart was. He is going to have to take on a larger role and continue doing what he is doing and eventually make himself a whole lot of money. I believe he's a starting point guard in the NBA at some point. He's not there yet. But as far as when Marcus Smart is coming back, we just don't know. Danny Ainge was on 98.5 The Sports Hub earlier today, and this is what he had to say about it.
I think that there's a chance he plays and a chance he's done. I mean, we're all waiting to figure out what that's going to be. And he's in New York today getting another opinion, a hand specialist there. And I guess we'll all talk over the next few days, give it a week to sort of heal or at least calm down the injury to see if he can tape it and play or if it's something that needs surgery.
Yeah, so I don't know. That's what he said. He basically said, I don't know. Brad Stevens said the same thing a couple of days ago. That's where we're at with Marcus Smart. And it sucks. It really sucks. The self-inflicted hand injury that he did to himself a little while back now, and then obviously this one, which was just a quintessential Marcus Smart. It came from hustling and diving for a loose ball, and that's great. You don't fault him for putting that all-out effort there. This is just a bad luck situation, jamming the thumb that he did and possibly injuring the tendon to the point of needing surgery. But he is so important to this team, and we can discuss more about that later on and what the ceiling is for this group with Marcus Smart versus without. But it wasn't just an update on Smart. How about Kyrie Irving and that knee problem that existed even before he came to the Celtics? Was there any hesitancy on the part of the C's making that deal and bringing in a guy that already had a pre-existing knee issue?
There was a lot of discussion, and that was a big part of it going forward too. Kyrie had the injury, 2.5 years ago now, 3 years ago. So we knew that there would be maintenance issues, but his long-term prognostication is good. He's going to have some maintenance issues here and there. We knew coming into this year that he probably wasn't going to be an 82-game guy. He was going to be, a 72 to 75-game guy and be in order to keep him fresh for the playoffs, and that's what it's been. And we're just extra cautious. We have the good fortune of being extra cautious right now. We want him fresh and healthy, and we think that he will be come playoff time. He has some surgery that may need to happen, but maybe not this summer, maybe the following summer, or maybe the summer after that. I think that he could probably do it anytime he wanted, but I'm not sure that it's needed at this moment.
So I brought this up last week, and some of you out there thought I was crazy for even addressing the potential of surgery. I don't know how you could possibly ignore that, especially when there was that pre-existing report out of Cleveland.com at the time of the trade. He's going to need surgery. That's just my unprofessional opinion. Not a doctor, haven't asked Kyrie Irving about it, haven't inspected the knee, not that I would know what I'm looking for, opinion. He's going to need surgery. Maybe that's not this offseason like Danny said. Maybe it's the next. Maybe it's the one after that. But he has to get this issue corrected. He's 25 years old, and yes, it's something that could linger throughout his career. Cedric Maxwell talked about that, but it's also entirely possible that this will be resolved and won't be that big a deal. We don't have to sit here and believe this is going to affect Kyrie Irving's long-term future in Boston, but in the short term of caring about the 2018 postseason, of course it does. And so how do you manage Kyrie Irving for the duration of this year? What the Celtics are doing, right? Don't play him all that much. Sit him out as much as humanly possible so that he's ready to come back and play 35 minutes a night in the playoffs and doesn't have to worry with games a little more spread out about sitting out games. That's what we all want to avoid here. We want a healthy Kyrie Irving, because this team, without Hayward already, who it doesn't look like is coming back. Danny Ainge even talked about that, interesting enough, by the way, on Hayward. He actually said Hayward had a setback in his rehab for a couple weeks about a month ago, and they were progressing a little too fast, they thought, and that's what brought that on. So they're still not planning on having him back. But that's an interesting little detail that hasn't been out there. The fact that Hayward maybe was pushing things beyond what he should have been, and maybe to the dismay of the organization. I have no idea. That could just be a theory, but obviously it has slowed things down. So with Irving, with Smart, with Brown, you're not going to mess with a brain injury, clearly, and just all that is going on. Sit. Rest. Hope you don't lose that second seed. Maybe you take a less measured view later in the regular season if you have to, but just worry about that 2 seed staying put, getting guys healthy. Forget about the 1. Toronto's not going to fall apart, and go from there. So we're going to get into all of this stuff with Sean Deveney. In fact, let's bring him in now. We'll take your Twitter questions a little bit later on in the show, but Sean covers the NBA for Sporting News. And Sean, you've had a busy week publishing a whole lot of news from Ray Allen about his time with the Celtics and feud that just may never end.
It's pretty remarkable. It is. You're right. It is a feud that doesn't seem to end. It's hard to believe it's been 10 years since they won that championship, and 6 years this summer since Ray Allen left. But it's something that still resonates with people. It's something where I think the personalities stuck with people, the way things went down. There's still some mystery about it. Everybody's got their own version of events, and as long as that remains the case, I think people are going to be interested in it.
Yeah, it's funny. My wife tells me that I hate confrontation, but I can't get enough of this story. I love, maybe just because I'm not involved in it.
Yeah, it's not your confrontation, so you don't have to worry about it. You can read about other people's confrontation, and but that's a great word, because it just seemed like certainly starting around 2011 or so, that locker room was overwhelmed by confrontation. Some of the things Ray Allen said in the book, really did surprise me.
I want to get to a whole lot of that, but we're going to do it later on because there were some fascinating elements to what's in that new book. And first, though, the 2018 incarnation, because these C's, they're incredibly banged up. Knowing what you know right now, what is this team ceiling, and how significant has the drop been from how you may have answered that question a week or two ago?
Yeah, I think it's really unfortunate. Obviously they start the year with an injury that would have devastated most teams, and they were able to withstand it. Having said that, the guys that they're losing. Man, it's tough to imagine, because you lose a guy who you're paying the money that you're paying to Gordon Hayward, and it just puts so much pressure on your bench. Then you turn around and you lose a couple of key bench pieces like Marcus Smart and Daniel Tice, and it's just hard to. There's just nothing left. There's just nothing. You're really turning to guys who are just too untested. So it's tough. If they had those two guys, and I think around the league, a lot of people would say, wow, anybody could withstand losing Daniel Tice or Marcus Smart. But I think if you watch this team, then you know how important those guys are, especially in the playoffs when you need that defense. You need the ability to be versatile and to use different lineups. Like that's something that Tice gives you. So without that, I think it becomes much, much tougher to see, how this team could wind up in the NBA Finals, which I think is the goal here.
We still don't know the extent of Marcus Smart's injury. How big a difference is his health for this team in terms of a playoff run? As someone that, like me, like so many people listening to this podcast, that do watch this team closely and do understand his value.
Yeah, and like I say, it's not just what his value is, because I think everybody who watches and sees what he does defensively and how many problems he causes for other teams on the defensive end, and you live with some of the poor offense, but even offensively, I think he gets a worse reputation based on the field goal percentage than what he actually does offensively. I don't think he's a drag on the offense when he's out there. But you take that and you take what you know is his value, and then you look at, okay, well, once he's gone, what replaces him? And that's where it really becomes a problem, because you just don't have much. If you have to play, Ojale more minutes, or you just don't have enough there to really make up for the absence of a guy like Marcus Smart, and that's where, going back to the Hayward injury, that's where that hurts you. Is that you don't have that where you might have 3-4 deep at a position. Now all of a sudden you're really lacking when you get into an injury like that.
I spoke with Sean Grandy a few weeks ago at this point after Smart's first-hand injury, and he felt that his future with the Celtics, contractually, financially, all of it, would be largely determined by how he closed the season after that self-inflicted wound. And now it's possible, we don't know for sure, but it's possible he's done. This problem happened, though, as a result of what Smart does best, hustling, going for the loose ball, diving. What is his future with the C's, do you think?
I don't think there's a future with the C's, to be honest with you. I think that the way that Danny seems to operate is, he's been able to get these draft picks, and the idea is bring them in, you coach them up and develop them for 4 years and get that cheap deal. You're on the rookie scale contract, so that allows you to do other things in terms of free agency because you're paying the guys relatively nothing. When you get to the end of the 4-year deal, unless the guy's a superstar, you don't pay him. You saw that with Kelly Olynyk last year. So I think I see the same pattern happening here with Marcus Smart, that they're just not going to decide that he's going to be worth the money. Now, we'll have to see what the market is. If he goes out and gets a 3-year, $24 million offer, and that's the best he can do, that might change things. But I think his deal is probably going to be closer to the $12 million a year range. And at that, I don't think that the Celtics, are going to be in a position to match a contract like that. So I think he winds up elsewhere. Again, though, it's still a matter of what team is going to be willing to give that kind of money to Marcus Smart.
So it's funny you say that, because I've always been under the impression, of course, absolutely the finances play into it, but I've always felt that Danny Ainge loves Marcus Smart, and maybe he does whether he brings him back or not, but that he would, in fact, re-sign him if, as you noted, the price is right. Cedric Maxwell, when I spoke with him last week, I kind of forced him to decide, you can have one guy. Is it Marcus Smart or is it Terry Rozier going forward? And based on the defense, the mentality, what this team looked like when Smart was out the first time around, and just all the intangibles, the things that he brings, he said Smart. It sounds like, talking to you, you'd maybe go the other way.
Yeah, again, it depends on the money, but and to me, it's not necessarily a matter of do you like the guy or not, and we've seen this with Danny, is that he's cold. You get to where you have to make these decisions, and you put your heart over here and you put your brain over there, and he goes with the brain, and I think that's how this plays out. Is that I don't know that paying Smart the kind of money he might get from a team like a Dallas or an Indiana, that's going to be something that Danny's going to want to do, because it's the kind of thing that hamstrings you going forward, and he's been very careful about that. That's been one of the hallmarks of this team under Danny Ainge, is that he's been very careful about trying not to handicap himself with bad contracts, and I just don't think that contract would be something that the Celtics could absorb, given what they're paying everybody else. I just don't see that happening. So I like what Marcus Smart can offer and what he can bring, of course, but I just don't think that that it's going to make sense for this team when he actually gets an offer this summer.
All right, we'll get back to Sean in a second. Just want to tell you today's episode brought to you by Casper. Casper is a sleep brand that makes expertly designed products to help you get your best rest one night at a time. Do you know humans spend 1/3 of their life sleeping? Actually sounds kind of nice to me, but why would you waste time with an uncomfortable mattress? That's absolutely true. That's why you need to shop with Casper. Casper mattresses are designed by humans for humans. They're built to mimic human curves, providing supportive comfort for every body type. For example, take the original Casper mattress. The original Casper combines multiple supportive memory foams for a quality sleep surface with the right amount of sink and bounce. Casper also offers 2 other mattress models, the Wave and the Essential. The Wave features a patent-pending premium support system to mirror the natural shape of your body. The Essential has a streamlined design at a price that won't keep you up at night. And all of this is designed, developed, and assembled in the United States. Casper makes life easy for the consumer. Affordable prices, hassle-free returns, and free shipping and returns to the U.S. and Canada. And right now, listen to this. My listeners get $50 towards select mattresses by visiting Casper.com/Celtics and using my promo code CELTICS at checkout. Easy to remember. $50 towards select mattresses by going to Casper.com/Celtics, promo code CELTICS at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. All right, let's go back to Sean here. So I've wondered aloud quite a bit recently about Kyrie Irving and his knee injury and if he needs surgery down the road. Danny Ainge actually spoke this morning and said he might at some point in the next few off seasons, but the long-term prognosis is good. That's, the official word from the organization. Does any part of you fear that Irving is damaged goods?
No, I don't. They're really good with knees these days. I mean, it's much different even than it was 10 years ago, certainly than it was 15 years ago. I think the meniscus is probably the thing that you worry about the most, and as long as that is sound, then you probably got a long-term career ahead of you. I mean, you can even look at a guy like Dwayne Wade, who's had knee problems his whole career, and he had meniscus problems. He had his meniscus removed, which is supposed to be something that takes away the end of your career, and you can still see him out there playing. So, obviously not at the same level that he was, but I wouldn't say necessarily that his knees ruined his career. So, I just think that surgically that is one area where the NBA and really all sports have just made such great strides that 10 years ago, I think, you'd absolutely worry about it. Now, I think they're so good at dealing with knees and removing the small bodies that get dislodged and pieces of the kneecap, like what happened with Kyrie Irving in the finals a couple years ago. They're just really good at dealing with that. So, I worry about it, of course. You don't want a guy dealing with something like that, but I just think that that the technology in terms of knee surgeries it's made so much progress that I think whatever's wrong, there's going to be a way to take care of it.
I feel like I know the answer to this question then even before I ask it, but I will anyhow. Do you believe that any of this is going to impact the Celtics giving Irving a max deal when he's eligible after next year?
I think that they'll certainly try to play that game and see if that gets them a discount. But I think in the end, no. I think in the end, they're going to pay him what they've got to pay him. That's why they did what they did, and that's why they brought him here to begin with. So I don't see that being something that drastically changes what they're going to pay him. Like I say, they might try to maybe have a partial guarantee on the final year of the deal, something like that. But I don't see it having a major impact on what they wind up paying him.
Living in the moment here, can Irving realistically come back for the playoffs and play big minutes, or is it Terry Rozier who's going to have to play that much more important a role going forward?
A combination of both. I think it's something that they've got to monitor, obviously, but But I think they're still going to need Kyrie to be the star. They're still going to need him to carry the load offensively. But I think that certainly one of the really positive things about this season has been the way that Terry Rozier has stepped up when called upon, and especially when he knows. It seems like when he knows he's going to have a big role, he plays that much better. So I expect that to be a combination of both. That you're still going to need, if this team's going anywhere, it's still going to need Kyrie Irving to be a big contributor. But I think that from mid-October to now, I think Terry Rozier has made as much progress as anybody, really.
Jayson Tatum was asked to play huge minutes. 46 minutes against the Wizards, and clearly that was irregular. It was out of necessity. It was basically the Red Claws out there on the court around him as well. There were people who felt this guy had hit a rookie wall even before this. At the All-Star break, there was some degree of, and I use the word loosely, but panic, and he needed to slow down. Is the extra workload now going to affect his stretch run?
Yeah, I think that's inevitable, and I think that as well as he played in the first half of the year, he hasn't been quite the same. He certainly, has done well, I think, to manage it and to bring himself back a little bit. But obviously, for most rookies, the wall comes in January. It's around mid-January, and then into February, and there's a tendency to bounce back after the All-Star break, and I think he's fitting that pattern. But he hasn't been as good as he was early in the year, and it would be too much to expect him to play at that level, given the wear and tear on his body, something that he's never really experienced at this age. So I think there is an aspect of that, but I think he's done a pretty nice job of managing it, and like I say, I think it's something that for a player like him, it's to be expected, and I think he's done well given the number of minutes he's had to play, and given the fact that he did deal with that rookie wall, particularly around mid-January through the All-Star break. I think he's handled it as well as you could possibly expect.
Where do you rank Tatum in the rookie class right now? Not in terms of what you've seen specifically this year, but his NBA future and the outlook.
Well, if you don't count Ben Simmons, then
I don't. Yeah.
Right. If you take him out, I'd have him certainly right there with Donovan Mitchell. I think that Mitchell has been, obviously a real eye opener. But as far as ceiling goes, I think Tatum has a higher ceiling than Mitchell. I think what we've seen from Mitchell has been great. But in terms of how much, let's say, if you put it in a percentage, Mitchell might get, say, 25% better. I think Tatum can still get 50% better. I still think that he has a much higher ceiling in terms of just how good he can be. So, I think those two guys, you start with them, and I think that it's those two guys and pretty much everybody else in what is a really good rookie class overall.
Are there still things that you'd like to see Tatum doing better or doing more of?
Yeah, sure. Rebounding. I think handling double teams and things like that. Being able to read double teams and being able to make the right passes. He tends to play it safe, which is probably what you want to do for a rookie. But as he gets older, he'll understand skip passes and ways to find. I think he has that level of versatility where he can be a guy who can average 4 or 5 assists a game. But I think that's something that experience is going to dictate, and that's something that I think he'll learn over the next couple of years.
Last one here before we get to the Ray Allen stuff. Daniel Tice, he's done for the year, surgery, we know that. Can Greg Monroe step up and fill that void? What are reasonable expectations?
Well, yeah, I don't think so because, like I say, what I liked about Tice is that he gave you the ability to if a team comes out and you're playing Washington and they pull Marcin Gortat and they have a small center that go with the small lineup. That's where I'd like to see Daniel Tice and the hustle and things like that. That's not Greg Monroe's deal. That's not his thing. He's obviously he's a skilled offensive player, but he doesn't really fit the way the Celtics play offense. So, and that's really been his problem in his career. Is as good as he is, there aren't many teams that play in a Greg Monroe fashion anymore. So, that's really been a problem. So, I don't think so. I don't think he can necessarily do the things that Tice does. But if they make some adjustments on the bench and run the ball through Monroe a little bit, especially on the offensive end, they can create some mismatches there because he is such a great passer from the high post, and you can do some things with that. But in terms of necessarily fitting in with the way the rest of the team plays, it's going to be tough. I think Tice was just the ideal role player for this team, and Monroe is just not that guy.
All right, John, let's talk Ray Allen, because his new book, From the Outside, My Journey Through Life in the Game I Love, comes out later this month. You received an advance copy. You were the first to write about it and break down a lot of the stuff in there. Many, many interesting stories. What was your biggest revelation? Probably
the fact, and I'd have to ask Doc Rivers this to see what he says. But the thing where Ray said, and there was talk, if you remember, before the 2011 season started, it was during the lockout, and there was talk that obviously Chris Paul was about to get traded. He let the Hornets know that he wanted to be traded. Winds up, of course, he had the deal with the Lakers that got nixed, and then you had him finally winding up with the Clippers. But there was apparently a deal on the table involving Rondo and basically a Rondo package for Chris Paul, and ultimately, according to Ray Allen, at least, Doc Rivers, who coached Monty Williams in Orlando and was a big reason that Monty Williams got into coaching himself. According to Ray, Doc just couldn't do that to Monty Williams. Couldn't bear to stick him with Rajon Rondo. So that to me was an eye opener, because I certainly remember all the rumors and all the discussion at the time. And if that's true, if it was ultimately Doc Rivers saying, I can't do this to Monty Williams, that's pretty remarkable.
So I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to ask you specifically about that, because of all the things, at least, that you wrote about, this was the one, or one of the ones, that was sort of the hardest to believe, for a range of reasons. And we both know, we remember the reports at the time that this thing wasn't even brought up. It was the whole Chris Paul wouldn't sign off on an extension in Boston, and so that was kind of how it was sold. But let's say that what Ray Allen is saying is true. I don't understand, or believe for that matter, that Danny Ainge, as you said, as cold as he is, would have really passed up something like that. The better player, the clearly better player, just because Doc didn't want to do that to his buddy.
No, right, and I agree with you. I like I said, I'd have to ask Doc Rivers about that before I gave it that much credence. It's probably something that maybe Doc said in passing or as a joke, and Ray heard it and related it in the book. But yeah, I would have a hard time believing that if the New Orleans was dumb enough to take Rondo for Chris Paul at the time, that the Celtics wouldn't have jumped on that. I would have a hard time believing that.
Well, and Ray really just aired out his relationship, certainly with Rondo, with Kevin Garnett, and the clashing egos and immaturity, and KG always kind of wanted to be the alpha, and we know that of his personality. The way and various reasons why he views the perception of his exit as unfair, but how much, and that last point is as good a springboard for this question as any, how much of what Ray wrote should we believe?
I found, and I probably didn't express this enough in what I wrote. I got up around 1,600 words, and I said, I got to edit myself here a little bit, because there was just it's a really fun read. It's really a good read. But one thing that Ray Allen does in the book is that he expresses a lot of regret. He expressed regret over, for instance, when he left the Celtics and decided, okay, well, I'm going to sign with Miami. He didn't tell anybody else on the Celtics until it came out in the media, and he really felt bad about that. According to what he wrote in the book, he felt like, especially Paul Pierce, he should have told him before anybody else knew. And so for example, there's that, or he talks about some moments early on in his relationship with Kevin Garnett in Boston where some of the tension that wound up later could have been handled better by making a joke of things or making light of things or, doing something a little different. He does express a lot of regret. So, I think if you read what I wrote, you might say, well, Ray Allen's just, setting everything on fire. And that's really not the tone of the book. And I probably should have made that clearer in the article. But I think that there is a little more credence to what he says when you put it into that context. And he went through, everything that happened when the Celtics, when he left the Celtics and what they offered and how he wound up, taking less money and all that and some of the conversations he had with Kevin Garnett at that time. So I think when you read it, he does come off as credible. Obviously you're getting his point of view on things, and he doesn't talk a lot about, the bone spurs that he had late in the season that year, or the way that Avery Bradley played. He doesn't talk a lot about that, but certainly I think when you read the book, you can understand his point of view and at least see that I think he's being honest.
Do you think Rondo really told all those guys in 2008, "I carried you all to a championship"?
I think that's true. Yeah, I mean he said that. I think it was 2011. I have to double check the book. I think it was 2011. Okay. He said that. That was when Rondo was getting really surly. That was the water bottle into the TV, all that sort of stuff. All that stuff was going on that year. It was not a very good year that year for the Celtics. There was a lot of tension in the locker room. A lot of guys who were bickering at each other. Ray Allen talked about when Rondo said that. I believe it was late in that season, and during a game in Indiana. Brandon Bass and Paul Pierce were going at it with each other on the floor, and then it carried off into the locker room. That's something that I had never heard. So you really did have a lot of tension with that team.
You're a national writer, but you were around those teams a lot in those years, and I guess it just surprises me, and maybe this is just the advancements in technology and social media and the NBA Twitter now being what it is that didn't even exist back then, let alone being as prevalent, but you still had good writers and good reporters. The fact that much of this stuff, the vast majority of it, really didn't come out. Does that make the success that group had on the floor for those handful of years that much more impressive when behind the scenes clearly it wasn't all rosy?
Yeah, in a way it does, but Adam, I don't think that's uncommon. A lot of this stuff happens with teams, and players will sort of write it off, when they speak about it publicly and say, well, you're together a lot, and it's a family argument. You always argue with your brother, things like that. But it's usually nastier than they let on, and you do get a lot of this. I remember talking to Clyde Frazier about those Knicks teams of the early '70s. Everybody thinks of them as being this great camaraderie, and they played together. They played above their abilities and things like that. And he had some stories about how much they hated Red Holtzman, how much they hated each other, the fights. Racial tensions, all that sort of stuff, and it just flies in the face of what sort of the narrative is about those teams, and so I think that's something. There's great stories about Michael Jordan with those Bulls and the way he treated some of his teammates at the time. So you can go back through history. I think even the best teams, even the championship teams, there's usually something under the surface there.
So Ray's obviously, and you alluded to this with his exit, he's made some mistakes with how he's operated in the public eye regarding that Big Three feud and some of the different things that he has said and done over the years. And people who really like to cling on to all of that and spew the anti-Ray vile will look at even posting a picture on Instagram of him golfing on the day of the Paul Pierce retirement, not coming for that when it was another opportunity to potentially kind of mend fences. Now he and Pierce have. Will this whole group ever figure it out? Will they ever be reunited for that big bash that it feels like we've been talking about for a couple of years? Or are some of these relationships, whether it's Allen and KG, Allen and Rondo, are they just beyond repair?
I think Allen and KG are within repair, and I think they will. I don't see Allen and Rondo really. I just don't. Allen is he sees himself a certain way. He sees sort of the way you're supposed to treat others a certain way. He can be a little bit too prim and proper, I think, for some folks in the NBA. I think that's been something that's been true of him throughout his NBA career, and that's not Rondo. So I think as long as there's that tension, and they're both very, very stubborn guys, I don't see those two guys ever mending fences. I think with KG he will, but I don't see him and Rondo ever ever sitting down and having a cup of coffee with each other.
Well, last thing for you here away from all those guys, NCAA tournament's underway. It's looking like the C's are going to pick late in the first round, and that'll be it there, barring a trade up. Are there any guys that you think fans should be particularly paying attention to right now?
For the Celtics, I don't know. From what I understand, and Adam, I just talked to GMs and scouts. I can't watch a guy and say, okay, yeah, he's going to be great. Yeah, I'm just not good at that. but just the conversations that I've had with people who do know, it's a pretty top heavy draft. So I don't know that there's going to be some real difference makers. The kid from Michigan I like, the German kid Wagner. I like his game, and I think that he would fit pretty well with the Celtics, and I think he'll be around as a late first round pick if they have a good run and he continues to play well. He played well in the Big Ten tournament. If he continues to play well, then he might not be around when the Celtics pick. But just as that stretch four who can do a few other things. He's not bad going down in the post either, but he can shoot it at his. I think he's 6'11", maybe even 7 feet. So Wagner, I think he would be a guy who might be a pretty good fit with the Celtics. So yeah, if I had to pay attention to one guy, I would probably say that to me would be a good fit for them.
Boy, never say never, I guess, but in saying never, it would have been nice if that Lakers pick converted. I just, nobody envisions that happening at this point.
Well, I'll tell you, Sacramento's going to be real bad next year.
Something to look forward to. Find out what that draft looks like. Sean Deveney from Sporting News. Sean, thanks a lot.
Okay, Adam, thank you.
So, great stuff from Sean. Always a great guest, so no surprise there. Make sure you check out his stuff on Twitter and read that Ray Allen recap because it really is interesting. He wrote about a lot of stuff that we didn't even touch on there in the interview. But let's go to your Twitter questions. You can always get them in at Adam M. Kaufman. Best place to do that. From Rupert, can Tice be back for the playoffs? No. What would the timetable for Smart be if he undergoes surgery? No idea. I'd presume he won't play this year. If he does have surgery, he would be done even for the playoffs, but I'm not a doctor. It's just educated guess. And would Kyrie's knee be an issue in the future? Well, I've hit on this a lot. I would be somewhat leery of it. Listening to Sean there, he thinks that it really wouldn't be all that big an issue and isn't concerned about it. I just think, once you have a knee issue, even if you do have it surgically repaired to whatever degree they would be doing that, I don't know if it's massive or cleanup or what, it's something that, those things can always come back. Knees, feet, hips. I mean, these are some of the things that I don't trust. They make me nervous with injuries in whatever the sport. This next question from Dan, actually multiple people. Do you feel that Kyrie is a lock to re-sign with the C's? And do you think Rozier may want to sign elsewhere when he becomes a free agent so that he can run his own team? On the Kyrie part first, I don't think he's a lock because obviously anything can happen, but I think that's what both sides want. Especially provided the knee is fine. Celtics are going to want to max him out, and as long as he's happy here, we'll see what next year brings with hopefully a healthy Irving and Hayward and Horford and Smart and Brown and Tatum, and I don't know what kind of shakeups may or may not happen and any massive trades or whether it's largely the same core. They go out and contend for an NBA championship or at least reaching the NBA Finals as they all, I would believe, expect they're capable of doing, then why would he want to go anywhere if he's happy? And I include that last part with emphasis because he was in that position with LeBron in Cleveland. He wasn't happy, right? So if he's happy, then no, I wouldn't suspect he's going to want to go anywhere. As far as Rozier, the old expression, well, that's a problem for tomorrow. I don't think that's an issue for the Celtics at all right now, because he's not even an RFA, let alone a free agent, until after his rookie deal, which is after next year. So this isn't a pressing concern for the team at all. They just want him to keep playing as well as he's playing and then worry about that down the line. But sure, he may not want to get trapped behind Kyrie Irving, and I've discussed that on past podcasts quite a bit. Josh writes, hey, Adam, you think the Celtics have a legit chance, especially with all these injuries, to win the East? I'm going to say if all of these injuries are still prevalent, the answer is no, they definitely don't. I'm not talking about the regular season. I'm talking about coming out of the Eastern Conference and representing the East in the NBA Finals. If Irving is off, if Smart is not there, Hayward doesn't come back, and whatever, exclude Hayward from the conversation. If Irving is not himself and Smart is not himself, then no, I don't think they can get there. I think that the Raptors are too much. I think the Cavs, I'm just never going to count out the Cavs with LeBron James when it comes playoff time in a 7-game series. I'm not. A whole bunch more from you guys. I'm sorry, I don't think we have time because we're already running a little bit long with this one. But like I said, continue to get your questions in. I'll hit as many as I can on Twitter, but at Adam M. Kaufman. Continue to get them in. We'll continue to do great shows here. Everybody, such a big part of that. Sean Deveney today from Sporting News, Nick and Larry and Evan and John and all these guys at CLNS Media. We always want your feedback, like I said, be it on Twitter or on iTunes itself. Leave the ratings, leave comments, subscribe to the shows. I can't say that enough. Subscribe to the shows because you're not going to get it every single Sunday like you used to. You're going to get it on random days like a Thursday today. So subscribe on iTunes, and we'll continue to give you great content as we get closer and closer to the playoffs, hopefully with a team that is a heck of a lot healthier than it is right now heading to Orlando. All right, let's see some Gino at the Garden sometime soon, maybe after this next stretch of 8 of 10 on the road. Thank you, Gino. Thank you to you. I'm Adam. See you later.